make sure that
difficulties.
it's live. Just make sure that he's watching the.
Yeah.
Was
A
it
little
just
more
for
gusto
Jeff?
with the pledge, people, please. Thank you.
Was it the whole thing that froze, or was it just with Jeff?
I think good enough for Rumfather, that guy.
I just want to make confirmation that we're live outside of here.
Call it a rerun.
2 seconds. Is it live? Okay. Thanks. Bye. Okay, yes, we are. I just want to make sure we had streamed to the outside. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Because I mean, it's up on here, it looks good, but I just always want to make sure outside of the building.
Okay, all right, we're good. Okay.
So we will continue on. This is a busy month. We have the following folks to recognize. This is Public Service Week from May 3rd to the 9th. Teacher Appreciation Week, May 4th to the 8th. Municipal Clerks Week, May 6th to the 12th. Nurses Week, May 6th through the 12th, and National Police Week, May 10th through the 16th. We certainly want to thank all of the folks that have helped so much, especially during COVID-19 issues that we've had, but especially, we want to think about the people that are involved in these particular professions. We would also like to really, as a town council, is really recommending to our residents and our businesses to wear face masks when you're out. We're not requiring it. We're just recommending it from all of us. So just to keep everybody safe. So thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have reports from the town council. Bob?
I have nothing to report at this time.
Alan?
Next week's police commission meeting will be held here in the main meeting room. So we have some social distancing room. June, we will probably go back to the police department.
Steve?
Yeah, just really quick. Not only do I want to thank all the public service people that you announced for their special dates this month, but all essential workers. We're forgetting
Yes.
about those who work really hard at the grocery stores to keep us fed and our food going, whether it be Ace Hardware or
Right.
anywhere else. They are doing a fantastic job, all essential workers. My people come out of the steel mill and steel industries. I just can't thank them enough and everybody enough for keeping the world going during this extreme
Yes.
condition. I will provide a report later, probably in the study session on the bike trails and others.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
I'd like to echo Steve's thanks to all of our town employees, especially our public works that are trying to find new ways to work under this condition, keeping the town running 24/7. Our staff here at Town Hall, when you throw something like this at people, obviously they have to adapt quickly and they have to find new ways to work. And a lot of times that's not sufficient. So thank you for your efforts. PD and the fire department, what those departments have done to help kids with the birthday celebrations, the hospital workers, that was a great show of support to our hospital workers in Dyer. So on behalf of the council, thank you to all of our groups. Park department been putting up Facebook pages for 8th graders that are leaving that didn't have the opportunity to have a formal celebration. Thank you to the staff of the Parks Department for continually updating their Facebook page. I'd also like to report out that the Dyer Community Market has been continuing to meet and try to navigate through these waters. Dates have been pushed back. Mike might speak more to that during his report. We're looking to start July 7th. Obviously, everything is subject to change based on the government's orders and CDC recommendations. But that group continues to work very hard to try to make sure that we could put on a safe event. And then finally, census reporting. The national self-report is at 59.1%. Indiana is at 64%. Dyer is at 80.7%. So Dyer, as usual, has done a fantastic job of reporting. It's not too late. Reach out to your friends, reach out to your neighbors, try to get that number up above the 80.7. But thank you to all the residents for participating.
Thank you. Monday, most of us attended the groundbreaking for the fire station 2. It was really a wonderful event. We're ready to roll on that particular project, and that is the epitome of cooperation, coordination among all of our department heads and elected officials to get a big project started, and we'll be glad to see that finished. So thank you very much. Clerk Treasurer?
Yes, I'd like to echo on Eric with the census. The census is very important to the town for all the revenue that we can collect. Everybody, we could get it 100% for the census. The town will benefit from. All the staff in the whole entire part of Dyer has done an outstanding job. Not one has missed anything. We've always been out there for all the residents, even though we've been on lockdown. But nobody's services have stopped, and they've gotten everything they've asked for through email or phone calls. So kudos to all the departments on that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Town Manager?
Well, Eric, I just looked at the census data too. Give you a comparison, Eric's numbers as of 5 o'clock today. In 2010, we were at 85.2, so we're approaching our 2010. My goal is to get as close to 90 as we possibly can. That's our ratings are good. We did receive today our preliminary information on the CARES Act, which is the portion of money that the local governments will get. As I mentioned to you in another memo that state got 2.6 billion. Indianapolis gets, I think, a half of 500 million on their own as an entitlement community. Dyer and everybody else gets it based on population. Our eligible amount for reimbursement is $518,678. So now we got to start compiling the expenses to get to that. It's a reimbursement.
Yeah.
We turn in expense, and we have to the end of the year to incur these costs, and we can be reimbursed for them. So everybody just got the stuff today, so we're starting to go through it. So
Good.
Tom, does that include additional staffing that might be required to deal with certain issues?
only with direct COVID direct. It again, there's some nuances about payroll and stuff like that. It doesn't. One thing it doesn't do is reimburse you for lost revenue. Like all of our park activities have been canceled. There's no way to say, hey, we would have made $100,000. So that's not available. But I'm still going through. There's a lot of nuances with the payroll and stuff. We haven't hired any additional staff, but it does protect some furloughed people and some of those kinds of things. So that's stuff we're looking
I guess
at.
I'm looking more at if it takes additional hours for the police department to handle what they would normally handle, if it took additional hours for public works to handle what they would normally.
It would have to be directly related to that.
Yeah.
It's
For example, the fire department going and making a call to somebody with COVID symptoms.
that's where the labor.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's a lot easier than some of the other stuff. But certainly the cleaning of the buildings that Public Works is
Yes.
doing and those kinds of things, we're looking to get reimbursed for the outside cleaning and some of those kinds of things. Because the plan is to do the deep cleaning on a periodic basis. We used to do it every quarter. It'll probably be stepped up a little bit once we open back up and some of those things. But we'll try to get every penny we can.
Don't we have something to disinfect an area too?
I'm sorry, what?
That machine that you put in?
Well, yeah, those machines we've
Okay.
ordered, we haven't received
Okay.
them, but those are certainly eligible.
Okay, good.
UVC lights.
Thank you.
Mary,
Yes.
just to add on to Tom, we have
Yeah, all
been
that stuff.
tracking everything, all my accounts receivable. Staff and that have been tracking everything that's been purchased from all the departments, and now when they put in claims, they're putting COVID on it.
Okay.
So we know, but we backtracked everything and are doing sheets on it.
Kind of the plan for the rest of the year as well.
Yeah, it's eligible through the end of the year.
Thank you. Boards and commissions, Frank, I think you're the only one.
Yes, thank you. The Water and Sanitary Board has been moving forward with our projects and activities through this unfortunate event. Currently in the spring here, we're finishing restoration on some of the open cut projects and main projects, water main projects that we had from last year. Hopefully here in the next 30 days, we'll be finishing up our monitoring, flow monitoring comprehensive flow modeling we're doing throughout town. We're hoping to have enough data at that point that we can then begin the analysis stage of that project. In addition, we hope here during the remainder of May and into June, we'll be bidding out and quoting out our open cut and slip lining packages we have on the sanitary side. We have a relatively comprehensive package, and the packages that we're putting forth here should account for most of what we call our Category 5 structural rated sanitary issue. And it basically 5's the worst, and they decrease from there 4, 3, 2, 1 to the best. So with that package, we hope to eliminate at least a majority of those with the work that's going to be conducted this summer and fall with that package. So we're hard at work on that, and we hope to have a lot of progress during the summer and fall and winter months. So.
Did you move the meeting?
Correct. Yes. The meeting, I believe a notice went out regarding that.
Okay.
I moved it to June 1st from May 18th. Correct. Okay. We originally moved it a week forward because of the holiday.
Yeah. And
based on preparations and other information that we had that we're bringing in, including the project that I just mentioned for the slip lining and open cut, it felt prudent to move back instead of 4 weeks, give us additional time for that.
Okay. Thank you. Department heads. Chief.
Thank you. For the month of April, 542 incidents, 9 accidents, 5 warnings, and 17 ordinance violations. Self-initiated productivity is down due to the conditions. It was expected. Our Blue Light Police Memorial event that we normally host this week is. And we are taking applications till tomorrow at 4 p.m. to fill up to 3 vacancies that we have.
Thank you. Chief Stutler, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You've got my written report for the month. The only thing we've changed up a little bit is, I think Tom might have the memo too. Our responses are going to change a little bit with the Hart Street Bridge closure. We found out that they've cut the weight limits on the bridge drastically. So we're going to have to change up how we respond with the pumpers. But I think we've got a plan in place, and I think it's going to work. Nothing's perfect when it comes to this, but it should be all right. That's about all I have in addition to the written report.
I'll get that report to you. I thought I had it with me, but I don't.
Chief, I've got it. Are you still there, Chief?
Yeah.
I noticed in the report,
there's
a line that says continue to attempt to secure supplies related to the pandemic, little results. What supplies in particular are we struggling to get for our fire department?
We got some lines now. We're starting to get some stuff coming in. We were having a problem getting masks and like Tyvek suits. Nobody was able to get them. We actually just this week, I got some surgical masks from the EMA, from the state. And after a meeting I had on Monday with the other local fire chiefs, was able to get a supplier. So we've got an order and for suits and also some N95 masks. So hopefully those will start coming in here within the next week or so. They've got a pretty quick turnaround from what the other chiefs have been experiencing. So that's the biggest issue. It's just everybody's ordering it and it's not coming. All our requests through the state, we've gotten nothing but just the surgical masks.
I noticed that the state had issued or created that small business helpline. Do we qualify? Maybe that's a question for Bill or for Tom. They were offering kits to small businesses that included face shields, masks, sanitizer.
We send that out from our office.
Yeah.
We'll look at it.
Okay.
I got the whole works and then sent it out. All the employees that we get applications sent out to.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chief.
Jeff Drozak.
Right now, currently, streets, we're replacing stop signs that have been worn out and need to be increase in the size because they were originally 24 and they need to be 30-inch currently right now. So that's what we're doing in the street side. Water, we're painting hydrants. We're also exercising valves at this time throughout the town, and kind of just doing the same same stuff in the sense of chipping and leaf pickup, and kind of hopefully the weather starts warming up a little bit because the late warmth is kind of had things slow down. Plus, everywhere with the COVID has been a little bit of a challenge. But other than that, besides the report, that's pretty much all I have to report right now.
Thank you. And I saw them out clearing drains today too, with the heavy that we had yesterday and today.
Yep,
So,
we had prepared a couple days in advance to make sure, because we knew the rain was coming. So again, just getting that taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Shea, Parks.
The Park Board had we submitted a grant for a Autumn Shade Park improvement plan and water grant. We just did it this week, so we don't know anything about getting the grant. We'll most likely next March. That has been submitted. Also on June 12th, we have our bid opening for the Central Park project, which is the fourth ball field, the construction of Pond 1 and 3 and the block of paths. 10 o'clock here in Town Hall. Community market wise, yes, we did cancel everything through June. The first 2 days of in June, so we're starting July 7th. The plan right now is to do July, August, and then we did go ahead and we're planning on having 2 days in September 1st and 18th. That's been updated on the webpage as well. And we're still getting some people coming in and vendors or still interested, so which is good. And then programming wise, we have canceled everything through June. However, we didn't have any signups, rightfully so, for the virus wise. So we are planning on a July start, somewhat of a COVID-19 friendly kind of scenario with some camps coming up. So we plan on getting some information out to everyone about that too.
Yes. Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that under boards and commissions, in your packet was an email from Julie. I just want to make sure everybody had a chance to look at it.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did want to add, Public Works planted 500 seedlings.
Yeah, Public Works, and we have 2 of our park people too.
Right.
So we planted. There's 4 different kind of species, but everything's located on the southeast ball field behind the outfield fence. Good soil over there, so they should.
Yes. Good. Thank you. Next on the agenda, road projects.
Good evening.
Neil.
We have the Northgate project, which is Northgate, Fillmore, Pierce, 205, 206. Moving forward and progressing well.
Grab a mic, please.
Sure. Those Northgate projects moving forward. We have Osage and Laurel. We're processing the INDOT required documents and the contracts, working with Tom's office to secure the funding, and they'll send us a PO so we can move forward on that. We have the sanitary that Frank had mentioned. We have some issues in Schilling that's going to be taking care of those projects. And then Tom's got his list for the memo for the road projects, and we're looking at the 2020-2 community crossing extension grant list. And I talked to Marcy from NDOT yesterday, and it's looking promising as our Osage and Laurel project came in under budget, which is a benefit.
Yes.
That when we can process those documents after the state opens back up after their fiscal year, we can apply for the additional $70,000 as part of the match for 2020-2.
Yes.
Any questions?
Anybody from the town council have any questions for anyone? Okay.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda, we have ordinance and resolutions. We have resolution 2020-07, a resolution from the town of Dyer suspending late fees.
I'll make a motion that we pass resolution 2020-07, suspension of spending late fees.
I'll second that motion.
Eric, okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Was that different? Well, it is different because they've added the gaming and arcade to it also?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's in the nature of the business license.
But it's a different
It's a
than
different.
the ordinance and the
Primarily,
actual.
this is to confirm what you did at your last meeting. but we
Yeah.
added that.
Yeah. Okay, just clarifying.
Due to the COVID, what state board of accounts wanted us to do, correct, Will?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have a motion and a second. We've had a discussion. May roll call, please.
Bob?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Steve?
Yes.
Mary?
Aye. Thank you. Vote 5-0. Next on the agenda, we have old business. We have COVID-19 financing issues.
Yeah.
Tom, would you care to
I don't want
enlighten
to go
us?
through the whole thing if there's any questions on what I had. As you can tell, this is changing literally by the day.
It is.
But the data I have in here with regards to the LOAT supplemental stuff is accurate. And that's good news because it'll help us with some of the losses we're going to receive. We're going to be able to reinstate those, it'll help make up for some of the stuff. I will, tax advances, I'm concerned that we're obviously not going to know anything till the end of June. So it's going to be July. We're going to be able to give you a much better picture of what's happening. I'm confident we're going to be able to take care of the few debt-related issues that we have by internal borrowing. And I've heard all kinds of ranges of what the percentage of people that pay by escrow is, but it's the business people that don't have the escrow that if they decide to delay, it's going to be big ticket items. So, maybe a few taxpayers, but it may be a lot of money. So that's what we're not going to know until we get closer to that time period. So we'll work from there. Later in the agenda, you have the first step with parks activities. I've talked to you about that before with, as Mike said, no registrations and a bunch of refunds. We've run out of cash effectively. So we've got a plan. There's a plan there to do the seated stuff. It was money that was going to parks anyway and seated. So it's not costing us anywhere anything else. We're just changing what it's there for. But if this continues, we may have to look at some other alternatives and stuff like that. But the utilities are holding up. I think we only had the same 20 people probably on the no pay list that we had the last time. So utility revenue is pretty good. We're going to reinstate the penalties. Was it in June? I think it is, or something, because we're losing about $9,000-$10,000 a month in penalties.
Wow.
People just normally pay their bill late. Well, that's lost revenue to the utility.
Right.
And, it's not like we're showing tremendous hardship with the same 20 people. So that's a good situation. So I'll be happy to answer anything else that you've got.
Anybody have any questions? I would say we had a meeting with AIM yesterday, statewide, and they're very good about keeping us aware of what is going on and the changes that are the changes are coming by the day. You never know from day to day. In fact, we're talking about having a meeting every week just to keep everybody posted. So thank you. Next, we have the LPR license plate recognition technology. We need a motion to authorize the new NTE of $225,000 for the LPR program, the increase of $15,000 to be taken from the 2018 GO bond issue.
I'll make the motion that the town council authorize a new not to exceed amount of $225,000 for the license plate reader program, the increase of $15,000 to be taken from the 2018 GO bond issue.
Does everybody understand why?
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions?
Based on the information you sent us?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. Well, we just heard, was it yesterday, Frank? Cook
Correct.
County turned us down too.
Yes.
So we got no help at all on the outside. And I understand why. But we're okay. We're just losing alternative sites.
Yeah, and we had originally planned for alternative sites in the event that this happened. But the least expensive route was positioning them in those locales. If in fact, they would be conducive to the permitting on it. So we had to simply go back to the alternate locations for those two installations.
What about the 81st Street location. Could we move those back?
We did. That's what we did.
That's
Correct.
That's the,
That's the second move we made.
okay.
That's the move that happened as of yesterday. Mary, I didn't mean to interrupt because you don't have a second for the motion.
No, I don't. That's,
Second.
I had that.
I thought I heard Bob second it.
Nope.
Second.
Okay.
Just to answer Alan's question, we're taking 81st. Initially, it was to be west of, the intersection.
Mhm.
Well, the idea was to try to catch traffic so it couldn't cut through Faith Church.
Right.
So that's why we put it there, but that put it in Illinois. Now we've taken it and moved it just to the east of the curb cut that Faith Church has between that vacant property, which according to their plans, according to Brian, their plans, that's going to be a parking lot anyway. They're not going to have a second curb cut. So that location's done. But as Frank said, we were looking for the cheaper alternatives. We knew this could be a problem with the things. The Route 30 cost us 2 more cameras and a different pole, as I recall.
And we'll be using the same
pole, but
with
two additional cameras.
And
So that's what the increase is for. Now, the question is, when's it going to be operational?
Yes.
Right.
Well, when it's done. As Michelangelo told the Pope, here's
Okay.
the problem. Getting them up isn't going to be the problem. We've got to get them here to get everything implemented, and their company's still on shutdown on North Carolina.
Okay.
So we're expecting right now, Frank and I we're trying to schedule for June. So hopefully by July, we'll be all done with this project. But that answers that question.
Now,
we get
if
these
somebody should cut through the church parking lot and come out, will the cameras catch them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look
Yeah.
over here, Alan, if you
Yeah.
see on your screen there,
Right,
the
yeah.
prior location was here in
Right.
Illinois.
Yeah.
The new location is over here.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
So then that way they'll be able to catch them if they decide to go through the lot. They'll get picked up this way. Obviously, after they go here, they've already been picked up on the camera going westbound.
Right. Okay.
So
I don't recall if we've told the chief that the expectation of this investment is he has no crime in town. Has he been made aware of that? Apparently, these things are going to scoop you up out of the earth as we go along, but it's certainly going to be a big help.
I'm sure you have a bonus attached to that.
Oh yeah, we do.
yeah, and of course, it goes without saying, but the discussions in regards to these locations with consultation with Chief Hine and his approval of the relocations of these, and as he was obviously involved in setting up the original locations as well. So.
Guess my only other question is, were there any other upgrades that we had agreed to that could be pushed off to lower the price? I know we had talked about the different poles that we might use, and we agreed to going with the economy, with the economy version on that. Were there any other upgrades that we didn't talk about?
Upgrades to lower the cost, or
That we
downgrades to lower the cost, or
Yeah.
upgrades that we had chosen. The only upgrades that we had chosen in regard
Poles.
was the poles.
poles.
And the poles have been already ordered and received and are ready for installation. Well, of course, a number of them are already installed, and the other ones remain to be installed. So we can't necessarily downgrade to a wooden pole at this point. But again, we got a good price on the aluminum poles. Wasn't much of an increase for those. We saved a little money in regards to the location that we're talking about. When we shifted that location closer to Indiana, we were able to take the power and communications from the north side of the street through the underground conduit that was beneath 30 and feed that other location using a single control box and using power from that system. So that actually saved us money in equipment, saved us approximately almost $5,000 in equipment in this addition that we did. So that helped limit the increase that we had on it. So, but outside of that, there's really no other options that we could make to downgrade it without removing cameras or control boxes or these kinds of things. So, but we're hopeful, as Tom was mentioning, that at this point, with the council's hopeful approval with the cameras here, that we receive those and we get those installed, and then we may be able. Initially, we're looking at a 2-part activation of the system because some of them may trail behind. But now at the new location, it's possible that we may be able to have them activated all at once during the month of June, based on the travel hold. With the vendor, which hopefully in the next couple of days we'll know they're due to lift it, but they didn't want to commit to anything until they actually officially lifted it here on May 15th. And then they'll let us know where we fall in the queue. But they were telling us that it looked like we were high enough up in the queue that hopefully, Tom had mentioned, in terms of scheduling, will be achievable for activation of the entire system. So, but
Will our officers need any training, or is it pretty straightforward?
Absolutely. I mean, Chief Hine has looked at the system. I think it's as user friendly as a system like that can get. But there is some extensive training that goes with it, and they'll be obviously on site to activate the cameras and also, of course, provide that training. So all that will happen at the same time with all the different. There's a lot of different aspects to this product. Again, we think it's pretty user friendly, but of course, yes, all that training will be provided.
Okay.
Might be nice to have a sign next to it too. It says, "Welcome to Indiana."
The costs, the initial cost seems, as to be a pretty decent amount. Adding on to this project in the future is available too at different locations.
Okay.
And the infrastructure's already been set. It's a system that is buildable to add cameras to. Last night I had great news, a great talk with the sheriff. He is actually starting a program and adding many locations on the south end of the county and all around. And part of this is that all of the apartments can link up to these cameras and are accessible throughout the county. And that was the initial effort, was to create kind of a blue net around the entire county to help out with any kind of investigation. So we're not buying into a standalone system for Dyer's three locations, we're buying into a network of cameras all over the nation, actually. So
yeah, absolutely. That's an excellent point. It subscribes us to the database, and as long as the other agency provides us access, which all the local agencies are, and we have access to all of that information as well, both current and historical.
That's great.
Yeah, it's very good.
This should have been a county project like Spillman in the best scenario.
Right.
And like the emergency preemption system
Sure.
that we did with some of the county along 30 primarily. That would have been the best alternative, but there was no major funding source for it. I think that's what
Right.
discouraged it.
We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Steve.
Yes.
Aye. Next on the
I can add
agenda.
also, I apologize, and it's in your notes from 2019, but part of the costs have been covered by the asset seizure fund, which is drug seizures that the police
Okay.
department's gotten over the years. So it's a contributing financial factor in it as well.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
Can we verify that the feed's running? I got a message that the feed went down. Can you verify that? It might have been on there. Right?
I showed it's up here. I'll go check through another source, but it shows that the feed's running on the side.
I apologize.
Okay, that's fine. Should we just continue?
Yeah.
All righty. Next on the agenda, we have new business. We have the supplemental road improvements.
Any questions?
Yeah, we're not going to read all this, that's for sure.
No, I'm not going to read it all, but let me give you kind of the methodology and then open it up for questions and stuff. This is a project that Public Works and Neil and I have been working on for some time. We've talked about the CCMG grants and the one we got coming up here in the next few weeks, which is what they call 2020-02. We're going to throw roads in for that. That'll be done next spring because given the timing of everything, it'll be pushed off to next year. So what we did was we took the streets that were in a little better shape, put them in for next year. We're talking about 3s and 4s now that do not need infrastructure. That's what we're considering in this project right now. The other roads you'll see in the next couple of items, we've got design work for those streets that are in bad shape that do need infrastructure. So it's getting taken care of. What we're proposing is that Perry, Squire, Hill, High Point Trails, 215th Street and Rocaz all be done this year. Now, given the news that we just received since this was written and tonight that we might have another $70,000, it puts us in a little better shape because we were still applying for these streets and it was going to be more than the 50-50 split. So it might be closer to a 50-50, which helps us. We're pleased with that, and if we need to, we're going to ask for more money. We'll figure out the numbers and stuff. So that's the first one. What we're looking at for local funds, which could be done this year, working with, we have to take bids on what do we call it, materials, services from various pavers and stuff. But we look at Ridgewood Lane, Ridgewood Court, Wood Court, Forest Park, and Chateau Drive. Those are coming in and Neil's estimated about $600,000, and we take that from local road funds. to move those projects along. There may be a few streets we're able to add as we get a little closer and stuff like that. But that's the main gist of where we're going in this whole thing.
And these are all the ones and twos?
The ones and these are really threes and fours that we're
Okay.
talking about here, because the ones and twos
Plan ahead.
all need infrastructure.
Yeah.
So they're being
Okay.
considered separately and coming out of different pots, primarily next year and stuff. Although Osage is a huge one for this year that we got done. So then the third group of streets that we would fund, start funding locally, and we would add to this list as we get a better picture financially, is Wind Hill Lane, I think it's Brenninger, Hawthorne Lane, Summer Hill Drive, and we would add that as we develop. Now, these are streets that we evaluated this year that are in the Paiser list that are threes and fours. Now, next spring, we'll look at where we're at, and there may be some other streets that move in there. But the idea is we want to get rid of the ones and twos with the major reconstruction. There's 214th is added to the list that isn't in here, and then keep moving along on this stuff. This isn't finalized. If you've got streets that you want us to throw in here and look at, understand this isn't a just do this street. We're trying to do this with a methodology that the Paiser ratings determine what streets get done where. And then the tiebreaker, of course, is what needs infrastructure and what just needs resurfacing. And we're trying to whittle through and get rid of. My goal initially was to try to get rid of, by the end of next year, all the ones and twos. Well, my new goal is for us to never have a one or a two and be able to catch them before they get to that. And I think we're getting close to that. But it may be that we move into 22 to try to get rid of the last ones and twos. And a lot of it depends on next year when we apply for the CCMG, we're gonna make sure we get our $1 million, not come up short. We're gonna have $3 million worth of streets and those kinds of things to make sure we got it. And we've been lucky. We've gotten our max every year that we've applied. And this year, being able to throw another 70 grand in works out pretty well, because that really wasn't the policy before.
Right.
So we're pleased with that. But this is going to take efforts by the utilities. And you've heard me say this, they've got to have money to foot the bill for this kind of a thing. So that gets back to the rates and everything else. If there's no money in utilities, I can't be doing a street that needs a water main or $600,000 worth of sewer work. So that's the supplemental stuff that we want to shoot for it this way. If you've got any streets, send them in. We'll take a look at them and see. I mean, Eric and I were having a conversation, and we were talking about Carnation as a good example.
Yeah.
Well, as they call it, Big Carnation and Little Carnation, as Tammy explained it to me. Big Carnation, which is Sheffield, the lake, needs the water main.
Yeah.
It's down at the bottom. Little Carnation, the cul-de-sac, is a 4 or 5, but you're still going to do the whole street at once because you're there. It makes sense to do it. But the big money is going to be in the water main and the street work. We turned it in for the community crossings. We'll get all the paving done, and was part of the grant, and a little bit of the sewer work and stuff like that. But then the water comes out of water, and that's going to be a pretty good ticket item. It's a pretty good size main, or distance of main. So if you've got projects, let us know, and we'll put them in the list. But I think the chart on the back kind of is a pretty good example, or a pretty good exhibit of what it entails.
So you're seeking an approval for the plan?
For this plan, so we can start moving on it. And if you've got other things to throw in there, we'll take a look at them. But we just can't add streets because we'll eventually run out of money.
We have a motion to approve the plan as presented.
I so motion.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Bob?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
The next thing you'll see will be a bid award or some type of an award for the unit prices. Neil will go through and put that out. We've been, 2 or 3 years, Neil, since we've done it?
2 years.
2 years. We'll get that out. We'll get that. And then from there, then we can start locking in on these streets and get it. And then we'll know what it's going to cost us. We'll have a 99% chance of what's going to cost us.
Do we have a timeline of when they can start the repaving?
I'll give you a timeline. How's that? A lot of it depends on how busy the contractor is.
Yeah.
You know, now, if it's a Walsh and Kelly who's a sub on some of the jobs already in town and they're here, it'll get tied up with some of that stuff. Or it may be they've got some time and they can knock off, they can give us 10 days worth of work and stuff like that. But hopefully we want to get it done before late fall.
Right.
And that's why we want to get these bids going and doing stuff like that. I don't know how busy people are. I know like Adair Construction's been very busy and some of those kinds of things. And I don't know, the individual contractors.
If we could knock out 10 streets, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's the idea.
Is there are you hearing any rumblings of potential federal funds to help jumpstart the economy, infrastructure projects?
What I understand is that, and this is from the speaker hasn't called me or Mr. McConnell or anybody, but what I understand is if you're thinking about it logically, in this situation, almost every state the construction people are working. It's not like the last time when the bottom fell out of the economy.
Right.
They're working more now to individuals. So I doubt we're going to see much of a infrastructure bill. But the next two items and coming up with the other one is exactly that. I want to start getting projects designed so they are in fact shovel ready. So that way, if something comes up, whether it's later this year or next year, we got stuff we can throw in the hopper and get going. Because that's what hurt most of the communities in 2008. The state had money. They made an allocation, a little bit like what we did earlier on the CARES Act and stuff. And about the only thing you could call shovel ready was a resurfacing job. And then the bad part was you had to use the state specs, which many of the locals have better specs than what the state had. So like in Munster's case, we did 45th Street. It was a lesser product than if we had done it locally, and they wouldn't let us pay the difference. So, but if you have a shovel ready project, you throw it in the hopper and get it going, you're good to go. So we'll be ready, but I'm not hearing a lot of positive signs.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have the design engineering agreements for Carnation. We'll do that one first. You want us to approve?
Yeah, the Carnation is the cost is $43,700, and the design engineering right now will be paid from the wheel excise tax.
Right, and that was one thing that they had discussed yesterday. The MVH and the wheel excise they're anticipating it being a little bit lower next year, but we'll have to wait and see.
The MVH will drop because it's a little closer. There's not much of a lag because driving's gone way down, but it'll pick up.
Right.
The wheel
gas tax and the sales tax.
The wheel tax, you still got to get your car registered.
Correct.
They've made a delay, so you're starting to see, but we get that deposited into our account every single day. So the fact that the BMV's been closed probably reflects only maybe mail-ins and internets. I haven't looked at the daily things, but you'll see that. But it'll pick up because I got a 90-day deal on being able to register my car. I still got to register it.
Right.
So I still got to pay.
Sure.
Still? So those are you still got internet, you got internet stuff and things going. So we're okay there.
Right.
Okay.
What's going to hurt us, and I mentioned it earlier, is the income tax related things because that's on a lag.
Yes.
So with everybody being, the cut down in employment, we're going to feel that in 21 and 22, and that's what we're waiting to see what happens with that. We've been certified for this year, so we should get our income tax that we're been promised.
Right.
And but MVH will drop because it's related to the sale of gas.
Sales tax.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I need a motion to execute design engineering for Carnation Street in the amount of $43,700 to be paid from the wheel excise tax.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bob.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Alan.
Aye.
Steve.
Yes.
Mary.
Aye. Next, we would like to have a motion to execute the design engineering for Edgewood Shilling in the amount of $83,575 to be paid from the MVH restricted. You have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to authorize the execution of the design engineering for Edgewood Shilling in the amount of $83,575 to be paid from the motor vehicle highway restricted.
Have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
I would have liked to have taken that money from somewhere else, but
Yeah.
we have an obligation to spend the MVH restricted for those kinds of projects, so that's why we're coming out of there. They're not easing up on the 50% rule, given the time. So,
We have a roll call, please.
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Steve,
Yes.
Mary.
Aye. Next, we have the transfer of cash from seeded fund. Would like to amend the 2020-2021 seeded plan to authorize the transfer of up to $50,000 cash from the seeded fund into park activity fund. We have a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Steve.
Yes.
Mary.
Aye.
we'll make the transfers as needed.
Okay. We would like to have a discussion of the COVID milestones and the reopening. You have a Back on Track Indiana plan explained. Looks like this. Do you have anything to?
Well, I know there's some concern or dissent or whatever about what time we open. I can't say enough that we've been functioning. We just haven't allowed people in the building. Many of the other communities have either not had all the employees there or working half shifts or whatever the case may be. But most of us feel that if we're fully functional, and when we talk about limited public access, we've had meetings in here, but we're doing a lot of Zoom stuff, conference calls. We've had people in the building, say the simplest example is like a water contract. That involves some exchange, building permits. We've made those things work. We've actually, they can do it by the internet and that type of stuff. The only thing you really can't do is just walk in the building to register for parks, which has no programs, or pay your water bill.
Right.
But other than that, you've been able to do stuff. I think the consensus is that most of us would just like to stay until, by the 14th of June, we'd be open. We can open earlier. I really don't think I can open up until after Memorial Day. I still got to do some things in the building. We've got glass coming in next week and doing some other stuff, but it's entirely up to you.
When will the glass be?
We don't have sanitizer in as much as we want. We don't have thermometers in, or thermostats.
I think maybe the 15th, because the 14th is Sunday, right?
Well, whatever it says there. Yeah.
Just want to make sure so no one can.
Okay, anybody have any comments on opening the building?
I sort of echo Tom's and everyone's concern, but the concern for myself and residents is try to get back as quickly but as safely and reasonable as we can. Following these guidelines, I see May 4th, 25 people being allowed within the government, so we should make that publicly known.
That's
there was
here.
people
Yeah.
interested, and we're not set up for 25. And
Well, you still have to socially distance. That's what gets our problem in here.
I thought if you could not socially distance, it was required to have the mask then.
No. Go ahead, Bill.
No?
It's the social distancing.
Still the social distancing.
And under government offices, it says limited public access, which is what we're currently functioning under.
Yeah.
Is limited public access. It's for necessary access only.
Yeah.
I believe that businesses all over this country are rethinking about how they do business, what's necessary interactions, and what could be shifted to an online interaction, what could be shifted to a telephonic interaction. And I trust that that's what the staff is doing right now, is figuring out what is the best path going forward, not just for this, but beyond.
I agree with you. I think one of our goals in taking, for instance, the utility bills, which is the principal reason most people come in here when you think about it. We don't have enough people, in my opinion, using the automatic withdrawal from their checking account. We need to encourage that, get people to do it, maybe give them an incentive, because the beauty of that is on a certain day, we get a big pile of money as opposed to don't have to deal with anything. You get, $160,000, $180,000. You want to get more people on that than are even doing, sending checks in, which require people to handle everything. Think of like the banks for the most part. What have they done? You have less contact with the teller than we certainly did 10 years ago, and certainly what you did 20, 25 years ago. Yet you still have access to all your money and you pay all your bills.
But we have less coming in the Dropbox and more coming in where it comes directly out their check.
And that's good. But the Dropbox is not the best alternative. The ACH is the best alternative. If you use the credit card, there's a fee assessed to you for that kind of stuff, where the ACH doesn't do that. And we've had discussions about should we be able to absorb that fee to get people to do things like that. Well, that's an added cost. Is it worth it? You go to a retailer and they build it into the cost of every pair of pants and every undershirt you buy, and every can of peas. Yeah, but I'm saying I'm not asking. I'm saying we're looking at a lot of those different things. But I think it's important, if you truly want to be customer friendly, you give people as many alternatives to do their business, and you put up the least amount of impediments for them to do the business. There are studies that'll show you, like in the Parks and Recreation Department, when you started using credit cards, people started spending more money on programs because they didn't have to write that check out that check out for everything else. So they'll spend more because they got some time to do it. Well, when you tack on 3.5%, that adds a cost to it. Is that a disincentive? We're looking at different alternatives, because the 3.5 or whatever percentages is what the fee is charged now. We're looking to see if we can change all that. But that's the economics you got to look at and stuff. Those are alternatives we're looking at. We're not ready to recommend anything to you tonight. But I think we want to make Eric's comment about making it easier for people to do business with the town is important, because the millennials don't carry cash around with them. They got a debit card, and it's just the nature of the beast.
So when are we going to have the glass installed, and when are we going to have enough
glass is supposed to be sanitizer and stuff's an interesting problem. We have some sanitizer, but it's spray bottle. We don't have the stands that you're used to seeing in some of the places, because everything's on back order. And it's been ordered. I don't care whether we ordered it in March or the other day. It's all on back order. Glass, we've got acrylic glass covering my office, building department, and parks department.
Okay.
The glass is coming into the clerk's office on 2 of the windows that we use next week.
Okay.
So that'll be done. And we're going to move the furniture out of the lobby so we can put the little signs we got to keep you 6 feet apart and stuff like that at all the different windows, and get everything set to go. We've had one deep cleaning, and we'll probably schedule another one after we open up and stuff like that. But we do wash all the contact points, the touch points every morning and stuff like that. But if we're going to have people in here, we're going to have to start washing counters down more frequently.
Yes.
We're going to have people sign in, because if there's an incident, we're going to have to be able to track back. The health department's going to want to have that. So if you come in to pay a water bill or come in for a meeting, there'll be a sign-in sheet for you that you were here. And if you had a meeting with me and I get sick, then that's the contact person that you're going to be with, and then that way they can track it. If something
And most
happens.
places seem to have the wipes accessible everywhere you walk in.
If you can find them, that's getting to be the problem. That's the problem right now. Where you see a lot of that is at the big commercial stores that sell those wipes.
Yeah, that's true.
I saw a great little hand sanitizer thing at Walgreens yesterday from Purell. I think it came, from an industrial. We're getting the ones that you normally see like at the places like that from the industrial suppliers and stuff. And we're keep looking around. But we're trying to figure out probably self-monitoring temperatures and stuff like that we don't, because if I have somebody stand by the door to take everybody's temperature, that person has got to be gowned up properly.
Right.
And that's not going to work, because I'm not going to have somebody stand there 8 hours a day. But by the same token, I think it's better if we take the temperature here and you come in and you report that when you came into work, my temperature was whatever the heck it was,
Correct.
and there's a certain limit. But obviously if been told if they don't feel good and they stay home.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we've been fortunate. We've had very few people that have been ill. And we're lucky in that regard. So
If any
that's
other
kind of where we're
comments?
heading. So just give us a day.
Sherrville, St. John, Winfield, Lowell, they all opened this week. Highland, the county, opens next Monday. I'm wondering, are we just behind the 8 ball in being prepared?
No.
Did we drop the ball somewhere?
No, we didn't drop the ball because the answer to the question is Highland and most of the other places did not have employees in there. And most of the places that are opening, reading the paper the last couple of days, they're still not going to let employees in there. So they're just catching up to us is what I would say to you, Bob.
Okay.
That's honestly, I've read every article that I can see in the paper, and we know at the county, we can't do certain things because there's nobody at the offices.
But the county is not opening
To the
doors to the
public.
to come in. It is limited access to the county.
Yeah.
Mostly by appointment.
Yeah.
And primarily the court system.
And
That's very limited.
And we were talking, Debbie, you were talking about what, Highland and Sherrville? They're half staff?
Yeah, everybody's half staff and working from home, some of because of different health issues and stuff. But Highland, Munster, Sherrville, myself, and Griffith have been talking. I talked with Dave Benson today. Haven't heard from another town clerk yet, but we're all trying to organize and do a Zoom. But we're all been sharing what we're doing with a list of like points of due when people come in. I gave a list to Tom today on 2 things that they're gonna add to, so we're all on the same program.
So have we had a full head count the entire time? Or are people taking sick time?
Yeah,
That
in my
COVID
office,
time?
people have taken sick
Okay.
time. I mean, Jackie's office is down the hall by the parks, so we've only had 8 in our office to 9
Okay,
at
so
a
so
time.
so we're fully functional
Yes.
without a full head count.
Right.
Right. I've got a couple people with childcare issues. They've been working split weeks.
Right. That's
And
fine. I just
that hurts.
wanted
No.
to
And there needs to
confirm
be a
that we're
time,
Yeah.
working 100%
Yeah.
without a full head count.
Yeah.
But you have to
So
remember that
we'll look into that budget as we go into 2021.
Well,
Bob, you have to realize that COVID poster that came out from the workforce, Tammy, myself, and Jackie and Lily were part of a conversation with the Board of Labor. And we had to go through each one because depending on where they fall in the categories 1 through 6, they get paid differently. So
And that's fine. It's not an issue of pay, it's an issue of productivity.
Bob, let's
So-
before we go down that slippery path. Chief Hine gave you a report the other day. He's had all of his people here. What are you down? 3 people? 2 people, right, Dave? He's down 2 people. So he's fully staffed. He's been functional. He's not had anybody out sick. But there's certain activities he's not doing.
Right. No,
Well,
that's
we're
fine.
doing everything here. It's not, I don't want to get into a game that, well, people took off. I got people with vacation. We still are fully functional. What does it mean? It means in my office that I work till 8 o'clock most of the nights and sometimes 8:30. That's how you become fully functional. You know, it's not a matter where you can cut people down because somebody took time off.
No.
You know, the
There's
clerk's
an
office, they've not had people walking to the desk,
and
to the
you-
front.
You can't cut people with COVID to begin with because it's a different animal. They get their.
No, and I don't
Yeah.
think we were suggesting that.
Yeah.
We
But I understand what you're
suggesting
saying.
So what I'd like to do is if June 15th is the date that we're looking at, I know you said the 14th.
Well, the
That's
50th,
a
yeah.
Sunday, so I'd like to see if the council will take a vote on that. Just so we've put the elected officials on that.
Are you making a motion?
I would make that motion that we reopen the town hall to the public on June 15th.
I would ask that you amend that motion to have it contingent upon no other additional emergencies or declaration by the state of Indiana and/or our U.S. government.
I will amend to include
Okay.
Steve's comment.
We have a motion and a second amended.
Wait, I just asked for the amendment.
Yes, I just said
I will
amended.
second it now.
Amended. Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What I heard from the town manager was that this is a shoot for date, could be sooner, could be later. That's just a tentative target date. I'm failing to see the value of taking a roll call vote on something that they're currently working through, and every day information is changing. Is there any value to voting on this as opposed to letting our clerk treasurer and town manager work through this situation as they see fit?
I think there's value in having the elected officials be the ones who say when it's open or when it's closed.
Yes.
That would be
Eric
my
has
point to it.
has a point with making the employees and the staff feel comfortable that everything's being looked at all angles. That's just my opinion.
But the
Right.
motion as amended says.
It does
that's
that.
what's gonna
Yes.
That motion does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
June 14th, we're gonna open up because that's following the governor's time.
Yes.
You know,
Subject to emergency.
something changing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bob,
Nope.
Eric,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Steve,
So I'm confused now. Sorry. Do it.
Motion in a second.
Motion and second. But I do have the right to explain my vote when I vote. So just for clarification, we're voting to ensure the council is making that decision to open up by June 15th, that Monday. Contingent upon no other additional emergencies or
Yes,
special circumstances.
yes.
Aye.
Finish vote.
Well, I
Mary
didn't-
left.
no, it was, oh, Mary, sorry.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. There's a vote
Thank you.
5-0,
4-1.
4-1.
4-1. Sorry about that. Okay, the last section is citizens input. We have had 2 letters emailed to us as the town council and prior to the meeting. And we want them to be placed into the record. You want me to read their names?
And, if I can, Madam Chairman, we had an additional comment come in here.
Okay.
It's like at 6:07 as well. So there's 3 that are in public comments at townofdyer.com at this
Two
time.
came before the meeting.
Correct. And
Two
one
came before the
additional
meeting.
one
Need to be
came.
Identified for the record.
Yes.
Inserted in the record.
One of them is from Kristen Watson, and the other one is from Kay Hartz. And their letters will be in the minutes. Now we have one other one.
Correct.
I don't know.
Yeah, you'll see it on your screen.
Petkovic.
I'll let you pronounce that one.
Predrag Petkovic.
You just
Yes.
spell it.
Yeah.
Okay, it is Predrag Petkovic.
What is the subject? of it?
Okay, the subject of this is I'm a resident at 1301 Deer Creek Drive. Last week, someone hit a car in front of my house and parked car finished at my neighbor's house. What town of Dyer is doing and planning to do to address this speeding issue on our street? Thank you.
All 3 of those are about the same topic, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Are those viewable by people that are live streaming?
No.
Madam President, I'd like permission to read the letter from Nicole and Joshua Perriman.
Sure.
On the evening of Tuesday, May 5th at 8:36 p.m., a car parked in front of 1301 Deer Creek Drive across the street and down one home from ours was hit by an excessively speeding car heading west. The parked car was then propelled into our yard, knocking over and completely flattening our mailbox, and ended up stopping 5 feet from our 6-year-old son's window. Had the car not been slowed by the impact of hitting the mailbox, the car would have hit our home and ended up in our son's bedroom. The issue of speeding cars in our Hearthstone neighborhood is not a new one. Seeing a car practically land inside of our home is, however, a new issue for our family and not one that can be ignored. When we first saw the car, we were surprised to say the least. Our emotions quickly turned from surprise to thankfulness that no one was hurt and that the car stopped before hitting our home, to complete panic and fear that the car could have easily ended up in our son's bedroom and crashed into his bed, which is next to the window. This is unacceptable. Something needs to be done before someone gets killed. Our neighborhood is full of children playing and riding their bikes on the sidewalk. Our streets can no longer be an easy route for cars to speed through. For days after the incident, our children slept in our bedroom. We should not be afraid to have our children sleep in their own beds. We're pleading with you to take a quick and decisive action to reduce the recklessness of drivers who are using our subdivision as a cut through. We have spoken with many of our community members who are all in agreement that now is the time to finally install removable speed bumps on Deer Creek Drive. The current steps that have been taken, i.e. speed recognition signs and street striping, have not been sufficient enough to reduce the speed of people driving through our subdivision or to prevent people from viewing our street as an easy pass-through. We need to protect our families. We look forward to your immediate response to this grave concern. We would like this incident, along with the resolution, to be discussed during the May 14th council meeting. Please see attached pictures from the incident. Respectfully, Nicole and Joshua Perriman, 1298 Deer Creek Drive, Dyer, Indiana.
And for the record, I did
It says
have,
Kristen Watson on there as well.
yeah, I seen,
That's a second.
I did
email.
have some text messages from residents on Flagstone. Because both streets have to be addressed at the same time. If we do something to Deer Creek, all they're gonna do is take that option to go down Flagstone. I had the privilege to go out with the chief, or at different times when we looked at possible intersections and what to do. Both streets have no intersections or long winding residential streets with many children out there. We tried the striping. I've suggested let's go ahead and get some stop signs. I have an idea for one street. I think the chief had an idea for another street, good locations. There are several out there, but we have to do a little bit more. I'm not going to take the chance of additional incidents. I always said, let's err on the side of caution. An option to do nothing is not a real option. I suggest whenever the appropriate time is, but as soon as possible, let's get at least 4 or 6 of these removable speed bumps. Let's try them out. Let's see the impact. Let's see if it makes a big difference, but I really want to be proactive about this and do it ASAP.
Last year, we made a promise to that group that, well, I'll call it a promise, that we'll start with some measures that are the least restrictive, least detrimental to the neighborhood, but we'll progress if needed. So we did the striping. When I've driven through there, it slows me down. Apparently, there's people just hell-bent on getting through there as fast as possible, and it's not slowing them down. I suggest that we now continue to honor what we talked about with that group last year and install, I'd say, 2 on each street and see if that makes an improvement.
Frank, can you pull up the map of that area?
Has anybody seen the video of the accident?
Yes.
Saw that?
Yeah.
That car veered. So that driver must have been distracted doing something when they hit the parked car.
But the one thing that disturbed me about the accident video, which I knew was coming, is after you see the accident, the car behind him is speeding.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to tell what the speed is, but yeah. I mean, they're moving through there at 25 miles an hour. But yeah, it was interesting that you could see that car lose or veer to the curb and then hit that car. And it must have been going obviously very fast to jolt a SUV from a passenger car and catapult it that far. But the accident from the accident report is, I remember it's almost 1,200 feet from an intersection. So a stop sign wouldn't have made any difference in that particular case. That's plenty of time. That was just a case of driving too damn fast. And when you get
depended on if there was a speed bump and where that speed bump.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
And when you talk about portable speed bumps and all the other kind of stuff, if you'll recall the last time when they made a presentation about putting in, the speed tables, permanent ones, I think that's the way to go. It's going to require some engineering because there's some drainage issues we got to make sure of that we don't cause problems. But the benefit of doing it in a permanent location is that it could be designed so it's less problematic for
Plow.
snow plows, fire
Fire
trucks, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Do it right. And the downside is you can't take the permanent one down, but if it's a problem in the summertime, it's got to be a problem in the wintertime in terms of going too fast. So if we're going to make an investment to do something, because you remember, they told you as soon as you striped the street, that wasn't good enough. So they're not, and we knew they weren't going to be, but you're right. Striping the street really slows you down. It makes it a thing. Difficulty is that street's narrow enough. Sometimes cars are encroaching on the white line into the thing.
Yeah.
But you know, when I viewed that video this afternoon, it was quite shocking how that car veered over. That driver had to be distracted. It was, you know, and then took off.
To me, the design of this subdivision is flawed. It was flawed from the beginning.
Yeah.
If it were designed as it is in Cherville, where houses back up to this street.
Yeah.
Because it is a thoroughfare. And it shouldn't be because it's a residential neighborhood, but it is a street that connects Calumet Avenue to Route 41. So, but it happens to cut right through a residential neighborhood.
Yeah.
And this is a problem that we have to address, in my opinion.
The temporary solution would be a solution between now and between what we do if it's on a permanent. But any permanent structure, speed tables, speed bumps, I work a lot in the city of Chicago and the suburbs, they have both.
Yeah.
The complaint about the permanent one is people get accustomed to them. So they speed up until the bump, they slow down, go over it. Once you're on the other side, it's back to where they were. The utilization of temporary ones was made to make sure that at any given day or week or month, the driver, if they use that same road for travel, would not know where that speed bump was. So it would reduce their speed.
So now you're talking about that physically moving them around?
Yes, the city of Bridgeview, they do it on, depending on the events that were going on and or speed issues. They don't do it every day. So it's not like they're out there and you got to get a crew. But you put them out there, and as people develop their habits over weeks or a month, maybe a month or several months later, you move it. And then it's very simple to move. If you haven't been around them or seen them, they have one piece of equipment, usually from the Department of Public Works, pick it up, move it, it's down. Instead of worrying about the signs, they'll have a little horse with a little light on each side to warn the people where they are. It truly works wonders where they utilize them and if they move them. It's like the same concept of the fake dogs that we have in our parks.
Fake dogs don't require a truck to move. But.
Well, it requires a person, and we're talking about a person to move.
Well, they're talking about it's a little bit more involved than that, but I understand what you're saying. But Jeff, are you hearing this?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, now you know what you got to do tomorrow morning.
There you go.
Well, at least provide us the information.
That's what we'll do.
Yeah,
the pros and
that's what I
cons,
think
the
too.
good parts,
We'll
the
look
bad
at 'em
parts. And that's why we're having these discussions.
Neil's
These
here.
are-
Chris will provide us the same
These are the
information.
ideas that the council has based on a resident's concern. We would like them developed. We're not asking to do it tonight, but
We'll have it for you.
I've talked to many different communities already in Illinois. They don't seem to have any issue. They can address community issues such as the speeding and moving these temporary speed bumps within 24 hours.
I don't know how much discussion is needed. We discussed this at length at a meeting in October, I believe, last year. We had all the options in front of us.
Probably 2 different meetings or 3.
You know, I don't want to see this drag on for the months, especially now that summertime kids are out there more. The sooner that we could put in people's heads that this is not a convenient cut through, maybe they'll start looking to just stay on 30 to get to where they need to go. I think it's a combination of the speed humps, and it's a combination of that and some strategically placed stop signs where we could use a few more.
People will travel the road of least resistance, and if there's obstacles or if it makes it a pain in their ass, I hate to say it that way, but they will avoid it. They will they will change their habits on how they drive and travel. That's what we're looking to do.
I have 2 questions on it. Mr. Kramer and Chief Hine, you both said you each had a location of where you thought a stop sign would be. Just for my information, I don't know what, and that's why I had Frank pulled. I wasn't sure which intersections or which areas you were thinking.
So,
Did you want to, Dave, I don't know if you want to come up sit here and work the display.
I'm good.
Okay.
he has the exact street names, right?
Great Lakes and Saturday evening was a recommendation because there is a distance between Route 30 and Flagstone without any kind of breakup. There's a clubhouse there. there will allow the residents to cross at a crosswalk to get to that side for the pool facility. We'll break it up a little bit. There's also 2 other streets there that can be used, but it seems like Saturday evening is right in the right possibility right in the middle.
It wasn't that, excuse me, Bob, wasn't that location approved by a previous council for a stop sign there?
I'm not aware of it, no.
No, Alan, it was brought up.
Yeah.
And we were
Yeah,
told
right
that we
there.
had to do a
Where's the entrance from
strategic plan because of the fact that if something, a traffic plan, because if something
Second
was to
street
happen and
name
you put up a
is-
stop sign like they used to do back in the day,
Mhm.
if there was an
Second
accident there and
Right
both parties had lawyers, they
Portrait-
could call to see if there was a
Portrait
traffic study
and-
done. And if there wasn't, and that stop sign was just put out without the traffic study, then we might have legal issues.
We'll look at it. We'll have the, we'll do a quick
Yeah, we'll
study.
have the engineers look at it. That would be the best.
That's all I've ever asked for is to put an engineering judgment on the location. Because that location, the clubhouse is several, Dave and I talked about that, was the last week or so ago. And I drove out there, and the clubhouse is kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not very safe to cross in the middle. That was an interesting location, but.
And the location I had looked at and watched for a while was Portrait and.
What was it? Portrait?
Portrait and
Flagstone.
right there. And the reason is it's a long expansion from further on to the east, and then they come around the corner all the way down to
Flagstone.
Flagstone, that's what I thought you said. I just want
There
to
are
make sure.
just 2 streets. So when you first
Okay.
come off Calumet Avenue behind the Jewel, there, the first street, Rockwell.
Yeah.
But between the entrance past Rockwell and past Portrait, all the way down into wherever that next stop sign is quite a distance. And that's where the cars pick up speed going to and from around that corner.
Okay.
And my last question is, this falls under, let's all agree that there are no stupid questions, just grant me this. Is there any thought to making Deer Creek one way either in or out at the Cherville line?
I'm open to the idea. I think it's a longer term solution. I think both ends, if you look on the east end and the both end and the west end, because in the morning, all their traffic is flowing from east to west, and in the evening, it's flowing from west to east.
Yeah.
So to do it one way and not the
Yeah.
other doesn't make sense. And now I get that there's going to be, that might cause a lot of complaints to those residents. But
Right, and I would assume, you know, if you're one of the few houses that's right there and you got to go all the way around now, that may be an issue.
But it
it's
helps make
cutting
your
the
neighborhood
traffic
more
in
of a
half.
neighborhood
Yeah,
instead of
yeah.
like,
And that's why, you know, even just the one question of one way out, that would, in theory, cut your traffic in half if we talk about doing different one-way streets here and there.
What do you want us to look at now? So I get it clear.
Looking at
One way
Deer Creek.
on Deer Creek.
Right, so you could only go to the east. It would be a one-way going east at the east exit.
Got that, Neil?
So the entire like 12 and 1300 block of Deer Creek would be both directions.
Yes.
Just at the very end of it, at the stop sign there at Hardstone Court, Stillwater is those 2 there.
Yes.
Just the 40, 50 yard stretch would be the one way you're saying.
And that's where I don't know. I mean, I would, you
We'll
know,
look at it.
for that.
Yeah. Take a look at it.
and looking at it, being cognizant that we don't want to push the problem to another street so that they go
Right.
one block further
Right.
down on 30.
And I'm
Cut
fine
into
with,
the
I'm fine with
subdivision.
pushing it to another town because that may get Cherville to get on the game and do something with St. John Road. So I'm fine with pushing it to Cherville. I just don't want it to be.
And in the morning, it's Cherville residents who are taking that route through the neighborhood to go to Calumet or out to 30 and 394. So
They do.
if it's a one-way and they have to go around the 30, then I'm sure they're going to show up at the Cherville Town Council meeting.
I would suggest it's not only Cherville residents, because I know people come from 41 to avoid
Right.
30.
Oh,
or go
yeah.
for the
Griffith
north. So
residents, Highland residents.
Right.
I do not want to blame it on my friends in Cherville, because I do have a lot of friends in Cherville.
They were south of 30 though.
Either side, they're all good.
All right, I think we got what you're looking
Okay,
for.
so we have a plan.
We got some ideas.
Okay, got some
We'll come up
ideas.
with a plan.
But
Yeah,
I
like-
also forwarded a voluntary request for the Jewel Complex that had a stop sign in their property
Yes.
coming from behind the building to help with that intersection.
Thank you, Chief.
See how
Yes.
responsive they are to that.
If I can interject, we received an additional email at publiccomments@townofdar.com. Additional email from Kristen Watson. It's on the screen, on your screens right now.
Public comment from Kristen Wilson. We need about 5 or 6 of these in each direction on both Deer Creek and Flagstone. Just a suggestion. Thank you so much for acknowledging the seriousness of this situation.
5 or 6 of what, the speed bumps?
Yeah,
Yes.
like 6-foot heavy-duty rubber speed bumps is the link that
Yes.
she put into this email.
Okay.
They have the Lincoln locations in a little box.
Yeah, well, I have that map with me.
The presentation that we received last year, they kind of spelled out what the recommended distance between speed humps is, so.
Yeah. We have all that. We just got to make sure if we do something like that, what does it do to the drainage? We have to make sure we can
Yes.
accommodate that. That's why it requires some work. But we'll look at those locations and.
And it might take up some parking
Certain
spaces too.
distances. Pardon?
It might take up some parking spaces.
I think if I recall, when they talked, if it was going to be in front of your house, they did talk to you and you consented the fact that
Okay,
you were going to be
yes,
impacted by this.
yes.
Now, whether that's the right location, it was an agreeable location, but whether it's the right location is a greater issue. And that's what we'll look at and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Because that, if you recall, that's what we talked about the last time was put these permanent speed humps up or tables, whatever we want to call them. And then it was the alternative of let's paint. And we painted and that doesn't seem to work. I don't know that anything is going to stop what happened a couple of weeks ago.
That could
The way
happen.
that person was going from what I saw in the video. That looked like somebody who was a distracted driver. Luckily, he hit the car as opposed because that person was heading to go over that curb and then would have ended up in somebody else's front yard.
Yep.
I think to the average conscientious driver, the striping does work, but
Yeah.
that's not the problem here. The
That
problem
wasn't the
are
problem,
people
no.
that just no regard whatsoever for that neighborhood.
Mary, don't
Yes.
forget about Debbie Fritz called with a comment from after the last meeting. You wanted to make a statement with Debbie Fritz's. She called you?
Well, she wanted to thank everybody.
Yeah.
She wanted to think it was a very complimentary about Public Works and how we'd work together. And yeah, she did give me that call.
Yeah.
So that's good. Any
But,
others?
yeah, 2 things on that, I apologize.
Yes.
I support the portable strips as soon as we can get this done so that it can be up and out, so that by winter time, we know if it's going to be the
Useful.
ultimate solution or not.
Yes.
I think, like Councilman Kramer said, we can always use them somewhere else if it's not the solution over there. Parking lots, we see them everywhere around the fields. I like the idea of temporary first before the permanent, just because it may not be the solution and may not be the right location. On that given day for that accident, there was one car in that hour time frame that went between 46 miles an hour and
In a 25
although we
zone.
can't say it was that car. It's very strongly that it was the car that got in the accident. The accident was ticketed and arrested and taken care of. She admitted to having paid more attention to the car that was behind her because she was having a disturbance with that vehicle and they were together. So this was by no means a speed limit, a striping issue or speed bump issue. This was solely on that driver and she's going to be held accountable for that to the courts.
Good. Any other citizen input?
The video, how quick that second car came.
I just have a correction to what Tom said earlier with the late fees for the water bills. We're to start in May. We just confirmed that a little bit ago. Because they were suspended for March and April, but they were starting up and that's what's in the newsletter. That's what Tom gave the direction for.
Okay, we have any more citizen input? I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, voice vote?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, we'll take a few minute break.
We're continuing to stream.
Yeah, we're going to
Right
just
now.
keep streaming.
Okay, all
That's-
right,
if
we'll
that's
continue
okay.
on.
And if I can,
For them to sign?
No, they already have it.
There it is.
Everybody okay?
I signed it and passed it on down. Don't know where it ended up.
Right there.
If I can make mention that if at all possible, either turn off cell phones or keep them away from the microphones. We're getting some of that buzz. You probably hear it, kind of chirps in the background, but it comes across the live stream fairly loud. So wherever possible. Thank you.
I'd like to call to order the Redevelopment Commission meeting of May 14th, 2020. We've done our roll call. We've done our pledge. We have a consent agenda that consists of the minutes of the April 9th, 2020 Redevelopment Commission meeting and the claims totaling $87,066.20. So we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I so motion.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Yes.
Aye. Next, we have reports, attorney's report,
I have nothing.
director's report.
It's all here and in the work study.
Okay. We have no old business. New business is a bid award for the water and sanitary sewer for Central Park. We need an award. Do we need to award the bid for the installation of the water and sanitary line from 213th to Calumet Avenue to Central Park to Rex Construction in the amount of $567,167.26 to be paid from TIF revenues from Calumet Avenue District. Do we have a motion to approve?
A motion that the RDC award the bid for the installation of the water and sanitary line from 213th and Calumet Avenue to Central Park to Rex Construction in the amount of $567,167.26 to be paid from TIF revenues from the Calumet Avenue District.
Have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Very happy to report the money left on the table was significant. If you look at the estimate, it was 882. And the real benefit was Rex is already there. He's the underground excavator at the fire station. I think that gave him a good position.
Yeah.
Talking to a couple of the other contractors, I mean, they weren't even close. They were so far under everybody else. The rest of the bids were good except for the high bid. So we had 7 bids, if I remember right. Low bid was good. Then we had the next 5 were bunched together like you would normally expect to see, and then we had an outlier. So we're real pleased with this. Rex is a good contractor, so.
Good.
And they'll be moving along.
Any
We're supposed to
discussion?
get this one done by July, if I remember. Right.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Yes.
Aye. 5-0. Next on the agenda, we have the fire station soil engineering proposal. We would like to approve the contract with Geocon in the amount of $20,689 for construction soils inspection services to be paid for by the 2015 RDA bond and TIF funds. Do you have a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve. And it was for $20,689.
Yes.
Geocon.
Yeah.
Geocon for the soil.
Do you have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? This is just soil testing, correct?
Well, it's the inspections and the testing
Okay.
and compaction. Like what we saw, all this, that was raised up 5-6 feet.
Yeah.
They were out there when all that work was done and did all that inspection. They approved the material that came into the site.
Okay.
We weren't able to use any of the stuff in the park. It wasn't suitable.
Mhm.
So that material came from the grade separation project up on 45th Street.
Oh, okay.
So, but
Close enough.
they approved, yeah. And so they'll be there during parts of the construction.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Yes.
Aye. We have citizen input. Do we have any citizen comments?
We do not have any new emails that were received in public comments at townofdyer.com at this time.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further business? I'll entertain a motion
Motion to adjourn.
to adjourn. Yes. Second?
Second.
All those in favor, voice vote?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Next, we have
Work study.
a work study session.
Many of these items we've already addressed as
Yes.
part, so we can, I think, go through them fairly quickly.
No, you could go home.
Neil, I think the only thing we have on here is the bike trail and the pave only, which we discussed. So that's really off the table.
Steve on the bike trail.
This
Working together fruitlessly. but
Good.
nonetheless.
I wouldn't say fruitlessly. Some of the fruit we acquired might have been unripened, let's say. So our journey started with connection to the Surface Transportation Board, their attorney. I ventured out to Washington, D.C. to discuss our dilemma with them. After presenting and ensuring that they looked through our information and understood our issue completely, they were agreeable to provide some options for us, whether they're legal options that we must take, because I did talk to their attorney, and promised to make this connection with somebody higher up than normal for the Norfolk Southern. So they connected me to a Solomon Jackson, who is their head real estate individual for the eastern half of the U.S. Had several conversations with him, had emails. Neil was kind enough to provide all the documents that they could possibly need or request. So it did not go nowhere for a month. I contacted him again, and he said he did not bring it up. They have a monthly meeting with a group that reviews all their realty. So he promised to put it on there. It connected with a Brandon to the group to make sure it was on the agenda. They talked about it. He called me within a reasonable amount of time, few days, whatever it was, and said that the group was not interested in letting go of the property. And I inquired why, and he said he did not have an answer. And I asked him, wouldn't it make sense to ask this group why they wouldn't want to do it? He didn't respond. So I reminded him that this property, even though it's not listed as abandoned, it is under a law, and I forget which law the Surface Transportation Board said, but if it's unusable and physically unusable, communities have a right to try to acquire it. And I reminded him of it. And he said he knows that. Yeah. He also knows that they have piled up their railroad ties along the side of it and some of the rail line. And I've reminded him of the possible safety issues and a possible liability if children would be playing up there. And at times we have seen them. So we went back and forth about this property. At the end of the discussion, he's promised that he would ask this group what the exact reason was why they did not want to convert it from being unused to abandoned, where we would have an easier availability to it. He hasn't contacted me. I've reached out several times. I know Neil has reached out, but our last conversation, the last thing he said to me was, why don't you make me an offer? And my reply was, so this is about money now?
Yep.
And well, he didn't say yep like you did, Tom.
Yeah,
I just want the record to be correct.
Yeah.
So either way, if we're going to exercise some legal options, and we do have them, according to Surface Transportation Board, many other communities utilize it. But either way, we'd have to get a minimum of 2, I believe, appraisals. Yes. So if we're going to consider making an offer, we'd have to have it, or if we're going to utilize our legal options, that is what we would need. One last thing, this Solomon Jackson mentioned was, in his view, this property was very, very valuable.
Yeah, well, it always is, except
Yes.
what he neglected to look at was a map that shows that the property doesn't go west because it's got an underpass that fits for a bicycle, not a train.
Right.
Well, it doesn't
And it doesn't go east either.
It lines up with the wall, actually.
Yeah.
The bike path tunnel is offset from the rail property line.
Yeah.
Now, they do own from the center of the rail, prior existing rail line.
75 feet.
I don't
each
know if
way.
it's 75.
It's usually
but they have
150 foot right away.
And within a
my.
right of way, I know on the north side, they have pipelines in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that should not be an obstacle because all the rail lines in the area have pipelines along
Sure.
them and they have converted them to bike trails. So and I also did find out they moved their headquarters from Virginia, like Norfolk is, to Atlanta, Georgia now. So if we can't make no connections, I may end up taking a road trip to Atlanta.
Nice
And,
trip.
you know,
For your
I
golf
think
clubs?
it's well worth it. We have to try our utmost.
Yeah.
This is probably the best opportunity to provide a trail, a bike trail. a
That's what we
walking
want to
trail.
do is get a converted rail to the trails.
Yes, and to acquire some money, federal money and state money. There is, maybe you can expand on that, but they're all asking, how far are we? Because we have timelines to hit. I think we probably blew this timeline for this year. I don't know. But at least we can prepare for next year.
Well, we're moving along. I think Neil told me 60% done on plans.
Yeah, the plans are essentially as far done as we can get them. We've done everything with DNR, early coordination. We submitted the application to Big Barlow at NERC. We've gone as far as we realistically can and moving forward without consideration of how to acquire this property, and that may be through appraisals and easements and those
Right.
kind of routes. But yeah, Steve's right. It's been frustrating to say the least, but as far as our participation, I think we've done everything on behalf of the town that we should responsibly do to move forward with those 80-20 grants through NERC. And we're just not getting a response from them to acquire that property. And if anyone needs that packet that we prepared to send out with Steve to the STP, that we have that available on that.
So anything I would ask is a consensus and permission from the council to represent the town of Dyer to push this a little further than where we were at. I know there is at least 2 other levels above the Solomon Jackson, because he's told me, and the group he's working with for the real estate, and they also have a recently new CEO for the last couple of years. If you look up his history, he's got a long history of helping communities and providing this rail to trail. So I would like to continue this process. I incurred any expense on my own. It's not a big deal, but if I do another road trip, I would like to take Neil with.
I'll drive.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm worried now. So it's just, I really feel strongly, I know our community does, and I've talked to many other people on the council in the town. It's probably one of our only best options we have. I like to run out every available avenue before we take a harder look at legal options.
Neil, how long a stretch is it? Off the top of your head, how many acres?
I don't recall. We don't need the entire right of way.
Right.
However, we would need more than likely to acquire it due to the fact that it would be unusable.
Right.
Given the Enbridge easement and our occupation of that. But the distance of that town, I just don't have that offhand, but it is on the plan.
Yeah.
We only go.
Because they can only sell it for what I don't know what kind of fee interest they have in the whole thing. If they just have an easement on it, it's a lot different if they hold. They own that. Do they? You know, that's right from before you talked.
A long-term agreement with the Enbridge, I believe.
Right, and we're aware of that.
Yeah. Yes, and Enbridge, I believe, has first option on where the pipeline is for that part of the property.
Yeah,
but
which we don't want.
Not for where the rail line is.
Yeah.
But you want to access these things.
Yeah. That's all we need.
Yeah. So I believe we have different options to try to push through. My feeling is if we have to utilize the law as other communities have in these situations, we should be prepared for it. But before we do, let's try every other possible option first. And we can document along the way. That may be required if we continue this on.
Well, I continue to program money in each bond issue as this project comes up. And when it's apparent it's not going to happen, I spend the old money. So there's always, it's going to be money programmed again for next year and that kind of stuff. So when it comes time to jump, we'll have cash. We should have enough cash at least to get the acquisition done. Then we get the programming done for construction.
And for the record also, we have been in communication with Cherville. They're ready to proceed on with their portion because the town of Dyer only goes halfway.
Right.
The other half going to where the road crosses over
Right.
behind the Home Depot. That's on
Right.
Sherrville. And the new bike
It's
path
done.
is right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such an easy connection if we can get this property.
Did we determine where the west end of the trail will be?
The west end,
Yeah.
I believe Councilman Eric would like it near his house.
I know, that's why we did Carnation.
It
That's
was-
why, that's why.
It'll be 80 feet wide.
So it'll be wherever we end up determining it. The town of Dyer is the western edge of the property line where Illinois meets us. So it's the possibility. Don't know where exactly it's going to start and end. Our first goal will be to try to get this property. And then all of us together will figure out what's the best availability, the start and stop and everything in between that we have to look at and consider.
In our comprehensive plan, we had looked at
Yes.
a junction head, a rail head,
Yeah, trailhead.
trail right where the S curve
Right.
is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to me, that's where I envision it terminating, at least in phase one.
Yeah, we have to
Neil's
consider the
been
crossover.
Flailing.
Yeah.
We have phase one ending essentially on the west end of Central.
Yeah.
And going
eastbound.
further west of there, you have several
Bridge.
challenges in terms of a rail bridge and other pipelines that cross transversely rather than that you would parallel. So I think logistically, if you can get that first phase done to the west end of Central Park, have one, two, several trailheads on the north of that, that would be a great first step.
So when we're talking acquiring the right of way, you're doing it all in one shot, right? We're not, or would you be trying to acquire right of way just up to there and then later go back and have to have the same fight again to go further west?
I would defer to the esteemed council.
But I think you'd go for the whole.
From
Get it.
Right.
from
Now, I
state
get that
line.
it's gonna take time and money
Yeah.
to actually develop it,
Yeah.
but as far as these talks about,
Yeah, we have the availability for between now and whenever in the future to go up to the state line. That's where
Correct.
the town of Dyer property goes. And if we acquire it, that'll be our legal ability to go out that far.
And I think that plays right into our comprehensive plan. When
It does.
they see it, maybe they have ideas that we haven't even thought of,
Yes.
as that we have in the past. We can
Connected
really-
to little green spaces right there.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
great idea.
All right. Number
what
8.
is, what kind of timeline? So we say exhaust all options. Is this a 1 year process, a 6 month at what point do we say we're not getting anywhere?
1 year ago, I would have said it's a 1 year process.
Yeah.
There is one last option that I have, and I talked to Tom briefly about it before the meeting. Is, I got a colleague who's an attorney that turned me on to working with Norfolk Southern as an attorney that I would like to forward that guy's information to Bill Lafayette and see if maybe he can make some conversations beginning that maybe it's on a different level than Steve and I are working on, maybe slightly higher. But that's probably the last.
Give it to me, I'll do it.
I'll get that to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other items we have questions on in the
No.
list?
Yeah,
I
to
think
get back to the bike trail, if Steve wants to run with it, go ahead. I'm all in favor.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
fine, yeah.
Becoming a passion and almost an
Sure.
obsession. I'm not obsessed with it, but
Call it Crater's Trail.
no, I don't. And to be honest with you, and the council and everybody else, I tried every which way to entice them, including naming rights. You know, I know some CEOs and owners of corporations, that is what they like sometimes. So there's possibilities out there, but I still see some different avenues. And Neil and I are going to get together to figure out best. And a dual path, your attorney with Bill, and then you and I trying to work our way above our connections already. We'll see. I'm hoping that there's somebody who
Well, keep us
really
posted.
cares about
Yeah.
community and bike trails, and it's going to help.
Yep.
Right.
And forever optimist, I know.
Yeah, well, you got another month and then we're going to the bullpen.
You're pressuring me. Come on, give me a break here, buddy. I got trying to save the world all the time. I don't know, but I think at some time next year, early next year, we should sit down and evaluate where we're at and what options we have to go forward. realistic. Let's utilize them.
Well, and I think our comprehensive plan, when we have the citizen input and we have something to say about that, when we get on board with that, that would be a great time.
I think the quickest way to deal with this is, I tried to, most of these are questions. And a lot of some of the policy stuff we've already dealt with. Is there anything that anybody needs more explanation on or wants to talk about?
No, I appreciate you taking the time to do all that. I think I had it split in a couple different sections, and these were just
This merged with the list that I had. It worked out well.
Right. And so I appreciate you compiling all this. The only one that I'll talk about now that is number one. I know everybody has a lot of projects going on. I just think that's a good one to have an asterisk by, that we, as soon as we can, if we're looking at.
I have ordered the appraisals. I spoke with both appraisers earlier this week, and I expect to have them before our next town council meeting. I ordered appraisals both on the northwest corner and the southeast corner.
Perfect.
To consider acquisition of both.
So by June, we should have that, because we're going to have a meeting in 2 weeks, but I don't know if it'll be ready. They've been locked out too. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's good.
No promises, but I think that's going to happen.
Okay. Any other questions?
So can we go through each bullet point?
Just if you want to.
Just trying to lighten a little.
Yeah, you did.
No, I read through it all the other night. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It took a little time, but a lot of detail, a lot of explanation and reasoning. I appreciated the work.
Right.
Anything else? Okay, we have an executive session scheduled after this. So thank you all for coming and staying with us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Let's do the executive session right here and just have everybody leave.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.